Yeah, Vortex here, and welcome to my review of the 7Hz Eternal. As you can see, it's a dynamic driver. I've already had a little sneak peek of these, and these look amazing, especially the glass, which you'll see in a bit. And I didn't know it's their 10th anniversary, as you can see there, which is kind of cool. And yeah, I'd like to thank Linsol for sending me this sample, so thank you very much. Yeah, and I was not paid to do this video, and all thoughts and opinions are my own. And yet these are priced a little bit over the Timeless, which is quite surprising because that's a planar, and this is just a dynamic driver, a big one. And yeah, let's just get into it. You can see quite a fancy box. So yeah, this is a dynamic driver. I'll show you in a bit. There's like a glass finish over the actual back. So dynamic driver. Mine is the balanced one, so it's 2.5. So on the specs, obviously it's Chinese, but we can see enough, so it's the internal. I guess that's impedance, which I guess is 32 ohm. Sensitivity is 109 dB, which so it's not too bad. 10 Hz to 20 kHz, which is more than enough. Total harmonic distortion. The driver size, which is very big, 14.5, which may be the biggest dynamic driver I've tried. The MMCX connector, which is a bit of a shame. I prefer 2-pin. And the weight is 6 grams. So yeah, for the power of editing, I'll have this unboxed in a second. So when you open it, this is technically the lid. It's going to really kind of, you can see, kind of really finish. So there's the branding, nothing there. Obviously that's on top of there. It has the same kind of case as the actual Timeless, but we'll get to that. So what's in this box? So what we got? So we got a lot of different tips. Thank you for your support. Some QR codes there. Maybe QC. Some other bits and bobs in there. So a bunch of different tips. So I'll have to see what those are like and what we were here for. So it's like a really dark, again this is metal, this is very cold to the touch, crazy kind of overkill case, but yeah, metal, very cold. Again, I've already had a sneak peek of these actually did come attached, so yeah, got to be one of the best looking earphones I've ever seen. The Eternal MMCX. There's right with some vents. It looks the same shell as the Timeless, which is kind of, which I didn't mind. It's quite unique. You can see how it changed. It's like a purpley blue. I like that. That's good. It's good to see things very different. And here's the cable. I'm going to unravel in a second, but again, mine is, as you can see, mine's a 2.5. MMCX looks kind of crazy. And yeah, next clip I'll have a look at the cable. So like I said, 2.5, there's the branding, kind of a thick connector, but it seems quite well built. Strain relief, you can see how it's like tied together. In real life it's a little bit lighter. On the camera it looks a little bit darker than it actually is, so it is like a brown, but on the camera it looks like a dark brown. So seems quite high quality. It's a bit different to the one that's on the Timeless, which I have here. You can see it's quite different. And yes, it's split here, chin slider, which works good. And that's it. So straight to MMCX. There's no colour difference between them. Just says L. You can see it just about there. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, I'm going to spend a good few hours with the Eternal, obviously graph it as per usual, then I'll be back in the future for my review. So yeah, we're finally on to the review part of the 7Hz Eternal. As you can see, to get straight into what they look like, they've got a crazy kind of effect to the glass. I've got to say they do look better than the actual the Timeless, which are a little bit cheaper than these. Again, it's very similar, so you can see there's a lot of vents going on. This is this is a dynamic driver, MMCX 7Hz Eternal there. So yeah, good set, and the build quality seems fine, just like the Timeless. So let's go on to comfort, as these are very important. Bear in mind, this is the only part that goes in your ear. I had no issues with comfort. It could have been a little bit better, but I've tried much worse, to be honest. I think more people may like that shape more than the Let's Shure S12, but obviously that's a different earphone. But yeah, comfort was okay. It could have been a little bit better, but obviously I'm glad it's not a lot worse, so it's fine in that respect. Isolation was okay. I think it could have been better. It depends if you wear something like this outside or if you just wear this at your home. It's up to you, but isolation could have been better, but to me I don't think it really mattered. So yeah, so power and sensitivity, I didn't find it too hard to power. It took a little bit more than normal, but nothing really out of the ordinary really. They say these are big drivers. I think it's 14.5mm, so they're quite big. Again, these things look flipping crazy. Yeah, so let's talk about imaging. Imaging was average. I thought it could have been better. Same for stage. It should have been, I think, could have been better. Again, I've heard a lot worse in both respects, so it's not a big deal. Also, bear in mind, people talk about a lot of soundstage for IEMs. Bear in mind that in your ear, so they're never going to be as big as headphones. You have to bear that in mind, because people seem to want a lot of soundstage for in-ear monitors, and it's not really the case. You can cheat it with around the 10k area. You can get more air. But anyway, before I go off topic, so let's talk about the actual technical performance. I thought the technical performance of this driver was average. I was expecting maybe a bit more, because these are not cheap. I think it could have been better really. It wasn't bad, but it just should have been better for what you're paying. And yeah, so I won't go on too much, so let's just get onto the graph. So I'm going to overlay it now. And yeah, one thing to mention is awesome channel matching, as in the driver matching. They do match extremely well. So there's a good piece of QC to these. They do match extremely well, which is good. So bass, there isn't much attack. They're quite lean on the low end, as you can probably tell, but it sounds so clean because of that, so you have to bear that in mind. Obviously these are not for bass heads, but you can always use a bit of EQ to lift it up. I know they do seem to respond fairly well to it, so you can always up it a bit to suit what you want, unless you're a bass head. So it's okay. You could probably do with a little bit more higher bass response, but obviously it depends to preference. Not much to say really. There's not much of it, but it sounds quite clean. And so mids, basically no bleed at the bottom, so that may make things sound thin. I prefer a little bit more bleed, a little bit more warmth to the lower end, but that's my personal opinion. But again, you can always EQ that a bit, so it's not really a big deal. And yeah, apart from that, the mids are kind of average. They didn't really kind of shout out to me, but they are quite clean. Most of it, as you can see, it is quite flat, so it's not too bad really. So upper mids are forward. Now this will tie in with the lower treble. So female vocals always seem to be ahead of male vocals. Again, it just depends on what you're listening to, but that's from my kind of observation from a few different tracks I've tried. And sources, I've tried this in a few different sources, and my main one was the Topping E30 L30 combo, which I have. Works perfectly fine for this. And now, treble, which is where these unfortunately get let down. So they've got a really full lower treble, which is not what I want. I always prefer the treble section between 2 to about 5. I like it smooth, shall we say. It's a little bit more forward than I like. And as you can see, there's a 5k peak, which is probably the biggest problem with this, unfortunately. So what I mean by that is some certain instruments sound really forward, like overly forward, and other things can sound I wouldn't say veiled, they just sound more distant because it falls off. After the 5K, it steeply falls off, which is a bit of a shame. So it depends again on your music, what you listen to. Some things are forward, some things are back. Some people might not even notice the 5K all that much. Depends if you're listening for that, shall we say. If you've never seen the graph and then you put these in your ear, you may not even notice it. Before I graphed it, I always try and listen to these first and then graph them after, so you can get kind of a clearer approach, so it doesn't really affect your judgment. And I did notice it a little bit. Then obviously when I graphed it, it did confirm my thoughts. So yeah, so that's it really. But yeah, I would have wished there was a bit more treble past that, and then the peaks moved off. But then again, this could be a good set for people who use mods like on the nozzle, or the materials that you put into, carbon treble, like people have done with the KZ and CCA models. This seems like a good experiment for if you want to do that. And that's it really. I felt kind of let down with the treble. Again, I never expected to see what this sounded like. I try and go with like a blank kind of paper approach and just judge it from there really. But yeah, apart from the 5K peak, it needed a bit more upper treble to balance it out. Maybe a bit more bass. That'd essentially make it more, well, I wouldn't say make it more V-shaped, but it needs a little bit more low end, really, a little bit more, not too much. And the treble needs more refinement. Apart from that, these are not a bad set. But yeah, so conclusion is, do I recommend the 7Hz Eternal? Probably not. It should have been cheaper than the actual Timeless, and the Timeless is more unique and I think tuned a bit better. The treble on these needs work, I think, for the average person, because not everybody EQs. For people who use a PEQ, you've got no problem at all. But for people who don't, or if you're on a mod, you can mod it a bit. But yeah, they're not a bad set. I just think they should have been introduced cheaper than the Timeless, which I think is more unique. And it just needs a refinement in the treble really, but they're not a bad set. They're quite a very unique set, because nothing looks like that at all. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Maybe I was probably expecting a little bit more, but yeah, they're not a bad set, but they needed a little bit of work really. So as usual, if you want to know anything in particular, just let me know in the comments and I can obviously answer your questions. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and take care.